I had to admit, I liked what Jasper had done with the place since he'd taken over from Shaky. The brass knuckles had become the chrome fists, and it was a picture of modern punk. All the neon and polished steel I thought I'd left behind me in Brizzy was right here on display. Apparently the West Coast was catching up with the fashion. The new DJ was a synth tech artist that Jasper had introduced to me as Eon Smog. He sat up in a kind of neon-lit half-cage, weaving beats out of thin air as he improvised every track on the fly. A holographic light show burst in time with the beats as the music intensified. A good month had passed since our little adventure over east. Darcy was on the mend. Both Reva and I had got ourselves fixed up, and I had a decent pair of legs and a fully functional arm again. Reva was looking fully healed and had all her augments touched up. We decided to go out tonight and celebrate. Let off some steam, get shit-faced, go home and, well, you know the rest. I had decided to keep the look Darcy had helped me put together. The clothes, the haircut. It wasn't what I would have done a year ago, but it was time for a change. And besides, Reva seemed to dig it. Reva was looking absolutely gorgeous as always, leather and denim complementing her mechanical limbs. She smelled of sweat, metal and mineral oil. I won't lie, it was a bit of a turn-on. Okay, so I'm a little messed up. Like I said, Jasper had taken over what Shaky had left behind. Not that it sounded easy. He had stepped into the role of club owner without too much hassle. He had half been running the joint by the end anyway. The other side of the business, though, that was a different matter. The other gangs in the city were pressing in hard on Shaky's old territory, and Jasper was having to push back. As good as Jasper was at some things, tactical genius he wasn't. He just had muscle and patience. He had most of the big orc boys under his command. They were big and tough and loyal. They would wear the opposition down, eventually, chipping away at the problem one street at a time. Tonight, though, Jasper stood behind the bar, resplendent in a red suit, open jacket with no vest or shirt, just huge muscular body on display, his chrome hands now bedecked in gold rings. He was really playing hard on that look, but it suited him. Jasper knew a brief version of what had gone down between me and Shaky in the end. He didn't seem to hold it against me. In fact, we were drinking for free tonight, by his good grace. So we drank, we danced, we partied through the night until the sun began to rise. Even Reva with her detox unit was a little tipsy. Then we stumbled out into the cool air of dawn and back to the apartment. It was exactly what I needed. It was something Reva and I hadn't really had a chance to do yet, and it was a good night. The next morning, or to be more accurate later that day, well, that was another matter. I rolled out of bed sometime that afternoon, and when I say rolled, I mean rolled. It was about as graceful a dismount as a rock falling off a cliff. I landed face first on the carpet and groaned, considering just staying there. Reva was still spark out. Her freshly polished mechanical limbs gave way to her toned, slender and perfectly shaped torso. She lay face down on the bed. Her naked form rose and fell slightly with her breathing, her back covered in scars. Unfortunately, due to my hungover state, I couldn't fully appreciate her. I knelt next to the bed, half wanting to crawl back in next to her, half wanting to throw up. I decided not to risk the cleanliness of my bed and Reva's ire, and pulled myself to my feet with the help of the bed frame. I left the room as silently as possible. The click of the door as I eased it shut behind me was like a drum in my ears. I turned away from it, gritting my teeth, and was met by Fia, sitting at the table. She waved at me over a huge bowl of noodles, her mouth full. "Afternoon," she tried to speak around her mouthful. "Please don't yell." She smiled wide and swallowed. "Have a good night?" I nodded slowly and rubbed my temples. There's some IC in the fridge. I gave her a thumbs up and staggered across the room like a freshly made zombie. My head felt like there was a miniature version of the DJ from the night before in there, bass thumping away. I yawned as I cracked the top off a bottle of iced coffee. My mouth still open, I poured it in. I sculled the bottle, then realized that it hadn't helped the sick feeling in my gut. Milk-based product was a bad choice. I continued my graceful motions towards the balcony, craving fresh air and an open space in which to throw up, if necessary. After 10 minutes out there, I was confident that I wasn't going to traumatize the pedestrians below, and moved back inside. Fia was still at the table, a plate of reheated pizza now in front of her. Lichens burned calories like crazy even when they weren't in wolf form. Fia ate like a trucker. I dropped into my favorite chair, grabbed a cushion, and held it in front of me for dear life as I closed my eyes. My heads-up display still illuminated my vision, and I switched it off. Somehow I had passed out last night with it on. Just as I was nodding off, a blinking light relit the darkness behind my eyelids. I did my best to ignore it, but it mocked me, flashing blue in the corner of my vision. I pushed it aside. 30 seconds later, it popped up again. Someone really wanted to talk to me. Too bad. I dismissed the notification again and then set my HUD to Do Not Disturb. As soon as I did, Fia's external comm chimed, and I knew exactly who was trying to call me. No, I'm not interested, I muttered. Fia answered the call. I could hear the look on her face as she spoke loud enough to make my head throb. Oh, hey, Rio. I groaned and sunk deeper into the chair. Yeah, he's here. No, he can't. Yeah, just like that goblin last year, only he looks more pathetic. I took the cushion, pushing it over my face, and groaned again. Okay, I'll let him know. She hung up the call and resumed her meal. I could just see the smirk on her face in my mind's eye. I knew exactly what her expression would look like. Do you want to know? She asked casually. No, I said, my voice muffled by the pillow. Silence settled as she finished eating. I had just started to slip back into the blissful darkness of unconsciousness, holding the pillow to my torso with both arms, like it was the only thing keeping me stable. Fia spoke up again. Honestly, if you weren't so fucked up, you'd be really excited by this one. I sighed. You're not going to let me go back to sleep, are you? You want to sleep? The door for that is over there. This room is for abuse. If I let you tell me, I said, sounding weary, will you stop hounding me? Huh, hound, you're very funny. I hadn't meant it like that, but it was a good one. I'd have to remember it. Just get on with it while I can still focus. A Turing child is on the run here in Perth. That did what nothing else had managed to this morning, and actually injected some higher consciousness into my state of mind. I'm sorry. Run that one by me again. A Turing child, Exodus Model K. I still had my eyes shut against the harsh light of day. Exodus. Got me, but Rio said that particular build is marked as extremely hostile. I could hear her walking over to her screens. You take that little nap of yours, I'll look into it. I nodded slowly, then let my mind wander as I finally fell back to sleep. The sound of Fia's fingers on the keyboard, the dull noise of music escaping her headphones. I knew the tune. Cyborg Betty by Clutch. Many hours later, the three of us sat in the bar at the end of the alley to our apartment block. It was a hole in the wall, run by one of the other residents in our block, Mossy. He had once been a hunter too, back in the day. Johnny Moss was ex-Air Force and had been a damn good hunter who had decided that he didn't want to die on the job, and now he ran the Stone, a very old-school looking pub. It fitted in with London court aesthetic. I had to give him credit for his sense of humour too. The sign that hung from the rail above the door displayed a rolling stone down a mossy slope. Reva was feeling fine after our night out, despite making that poison negator run damn hot all evening. She was just a bit tired. She was sipping a rather large cup of coffee though. Fia had an orange juice and I sat staring at my own coffee while I scrolled through files Fia had collated. "You know I sell alcohol as well," Mossy said, polishing a glass with a rag that looked like it needed a wash a dozen glasses ago. He was probably in his mid-50s, half-orc like Reva, but more solid in his build, with a short grey beard and synthetic dull green skin over mechanical limbs. I gave him a flat look. "I'm good, thanks." He chuckled to himself and shook his head. "Hair of the dog," he pushed gently. Fia looked up at him, eyes narrowed. He raised his hands in defense. "What, it's a legitimate saying?" She smirked. "You can make it up to me by getting me some of those wings." "Sure," he relaxed. "Coming up." "I don't understand it," I said, looking over the scant images of the target. "Why come here of all places?" "It's a big country, easy to get lost in." I grimaced. "Europe is bigger." "More borders to cross, though." Reva broke eye contact with her coffee. "What I don't understand is, I thought AI was illegal." "You've never heard of a Turing child?" Fia asked. Reva shook her head. "As in Alan Turing?" Mossy returned with the wings. "Him exactly," I said, picking a wing out of the basket. "So, remember when I said AI was illegal in 182 countries? She nodded, reaching over and grabbing a snack. "Well, one of the few countries that never followed that law was the UK. "Huh, they didn't just not follow it," Mossy put in. "They scrunched up the paper and set it on fire." "Even that is putting it lightly," Fia replied, moving the wings to her other side, away from hungry hands. I closed all the open documents overlaying my vision and took a mouthful of coffee. "Alright, so back in the day when AI was deemed a threat, sentient AI, Mossy put in. Right, well, society as a whole decided that they were too unstable and unusable. The logic used in programming them was fundamentally flawed, but the UK never officially ratified the law. Then a few decades later, they announced they've solved the flawed logic conundrum," Fia continued, "alongside a stable, fully functional robotic humanoid. They combined the two and named them the Children of Turing." Reva looked amazed and a little bit shocked. "But why?" "Why does anyone make dumb decisions?" Mossy asked. "For money." "He's right," I said. "They started out as a labour force, then they started making specialist models for some social duties, admin and clerks, some for security and some for more sketchy jobs, like pleasure units." "Why am I not surprised?" Reva rolled her eyes. "Yeah, well, fast forward to now, it's rumoured that they have their code so flawless, they started to question why they're low on the social ladder. Some of them have even tried to make a run for it, trying to get out of the country and be free." "Problem is, there's nowhere safe to go," Fia said, wiping her mouth with a napkin and pointing to the empty basket. Mossy rolled his eyes and left to fetch more food. She continued, "Almost every other country will put them down as soon as they set foot there, kill on sight. The other countries that will accept them due to the AI laws not being ratified would pull them apart and reverse engineer them in a heartbeat. Only the UK has the knowledge to create the flawless logic," I explained. "So what countries could they hide in? Who else never jumped on board with the laws?" I shrugged. "Nepal, Iceland, Republic of California, a handful of others." "I'd go to Nepal," Fia said thoughtfully. "Low population density and lots of isolated mountaintops." I frowned at her. "Put some thought into this, have you?" She ignored me and reached out eagerly to Mossy as he came back with their second order. None of this explains why she's here, though. I was calling it a she, even though she kind of didn't have a gender. One Turing child was much the same as another under the cosmetics. They had no reproductive organs, they had no feelings toward one gender or the other as far as sexuality. You could take a female pleasure unit, reskin it as male, and it would do the same job. At least, that was what I'd heard. So, do they look like... Reva made an inarticulate gesture. Us? That's a broad category, Mossy said. You know what I mean. I had been told that most of them looked like a robot, exposed mechanics and such. Only a select few of them get the full humanoid replica treatment. I pulled up one blurry image and stared at it intensely. This one, though, I narrowed my eyes, is looking very human. The image was of a woman, red hair, pale skin. She was pretty, she was lean. She didn't look like she had any obvious or extravagant augments. Technically, her whole body was orgs, but she looked like Reva was trying to say. She looked normal. So, where are we starting? Reva asked, draining the last of her coffee. I tried to steal another wing, but fear slapped my hand away and snarled at me. Apparently, she came in at the docks. We'll head that way. See if we can get an energy signature off the private surveillance down there. Great, Fia said. More sifting. Reva was driving us across the city in the beat-up shit heap of a car we had claimed after our tour of the Reaper's Garden. Fia had gone back to the apartment to keep digging. We were heading to the Fremantle docks. I was trying to find out what an Exodus model was used for, but the documentation on that model was restricted. Rio didn't know either. The tip-off about the Runaway was from a trusted but anonymous source from our sister department in the UK. They had only given us very basic details. Whether that was because they weren't able to tell us or they didn't want to was anyone's guess. Either way, it wasn't encouraging. I wanted to know what I was going up against before I had to engage it and try and put it down, especially if it was hostile or a combat unit of some sort. I was trying to make a bit more of a habit of being prepared. I slumped back into the passenger seat. Reva looked at me sideways. So where exactly am I going? Just as I opened my mouth to reply, my comm started to ring. A red light, not blue. That indicated a private line. I checked the code. That was surprising. Not a petty domestic private comm, an encoded high-end private line. That meant government or big shot corpo. Hesitantly, I answered it. No one responded straight away, and there was a short spell of silence. I spoke first. Hello? A deep, very English voice came over the comm. Is this Hunter Whitlock? It asked. It was a rhetorical question. A caller with this level of encryption didn't make mistakes on their contact list. It is, I said hesitantly. Good. I have an offer for you, Whitlock. I understand that you have been sent to deactivate a certain piece of tech. Can't trust rumors, mate. They'll make a fool out of you. He gave a gravelly chuckle. I'll say this once, Whitlock. Don't fuck me about. I'm not a patient man. I tensed up. I wasn't in the right frame of mind to have some shadowy English wanker try and flex on me. I got enough of that from Tobias lately. I have some lost property, he continued, and I want it back in working order. Would this be the kind of tech that can walk and talk for itself? Good to see we're on the same page, he confirmed. Don't get me wrong, I will pay you handsomely for it. And if I'd taken the job privately, then we would have something to discuss. As it is, this is a federal kill order. I don't ignore that kind of order. This isn't your country, mate. Different rules here. A pause. Then he spoke again, tone more flat than before. I'm trying to do this the civil way. You're making it harder than it needs to be. Maybe it was the hangover. Maybe it was the coffee that hadn't kicked in yet. Either way, I probably chose poorly with my response. I hate to be the one to break it to you, Prince Albert, but I have a habit of making things harder than they need to be. You want it, come get it for yourself. I'm not an errand boy and I can't be bought. There are other hunters in this city. I'll just have to open up the contract. He was getting heated now, a man not used to hearing no for an answer. Be my guest, it won't do you any good. Last chance. You will regret this. I had had enough. Look, you must be new here, so do yourself a favor and ask around. I'm the best in the city. I'll smoke your runaway and anyone you send. Put the word out. See what happens. I'll have your head for this, Whitlock. Better man than you have tried. I hung up on him. Reva was trying to stare at me while maneuvering through traffic. What the hell was that about? I just had a fun chat with our target's owner. It didn't sound like it went well. Not for him. I turned the conversation over in my head, trying to glean some clues from anything he had said. Are we going to be dodging bullets anytime soon? She asked with a sigh. Wouldn't be a work week if we weren't. Sometimes I wonder why I stay with you. Because I'm good in bed? I asked, hopefully. No, she replied with a smirk. No, I'm not, or no, that's not why you're with me. She just grinned. I had told the Englishman that this was a federal order, which was true. Technically, it wasn't actually a kill order, though. The AI laws made it very clear. This was a deactivation. I was destroying illegal tech. Not trying to take it alive, not trying to capture it unharmed. That didn't really change my end goal. It was just a change in the fine print of the admin level. But it was an important note to make. This guy, are we sure he's the owner? Reva asked. Not someone else trying to get their hands on her? Who else would know, though? I trailed off at the thought. You make a good point. Well, I had to call Rio eventually. May as well be now. I pulled up her number on my HUD and waited. It took her a few rings, but eventually she picked up. Oof, honey, how you going? I heard you had a big night. I instinctively massaged my head. Yeah, Reva and I kinda cut loose. I could hear the grin in her voice. I bet you did. Put it back in your pants, Rio. I have a question. She chuckled. If it's the loose child, I knew you was gonna find that one interesting. That's why I put you on it. She put an inflection on the word interesting. Gee, thanks. Only the best for my boy. I rolled my eyes. Look, I just had a call from another interested party, claiming to be the owner. Who else knows the child is here? She paused, thinking. Well, there's us, you, me, then my higher-ups, the UK contact that flagged her. She mumbled under her breath as she was doing some calculations. Probably every important and influential player in the state by now. Great, I said, dejected. Just great. So this guy could just be someone trying to get his hands on her to reverse engineer her. That's always a possibility. Did he give you any clues to who he was? I shook my head. Not that she could see it. No, but he is from overseas. He's here at the moment. How do you know? He slipped up. He said that there was other hunters in this city. That tells me he's hiding here somewhere. Rio laughed. What other hunters? The only other professionals we have in the area are all on jobs, or rookies with a stand-down order. That leaves him with merc hunters and the amateurs. I nodded along, yeah, and I made that point, flexing a little, but I still don't like the sound of competition. You're gonna have to step on it. We have to shut this thing down before the wrong people get their hands on her. No kidding. I'm sending you through the recording of my conversation with him, along with the number. Not that it would do any good. I recognized the encryption style. It was an asynchronous code via a third-party ghost system. If anyone but me tried to call it, it would get scrambled and shut down. Still, you never know. Rio might have been able to work something out. I'll get right on it. Try not to get shot. Your concern is overwhelming. She hung up. I rubbed my eyes, trying to separate all of this into boxes in my mind. A new player, the target, potential competition. At least I wasn't going into this one underprepared. River and I had been refitted and kitted out. I had all my old tricks up my sleeve. Well, not all. I was still a dud as far as any cipher abilities went. I gave directions to Reva as to the route to take to get us to the docks in record time. The docks were the heart of the industry of this side of the city. A map would tell you that Fremantle was a separate city, but over the centuries the massive buildings from every direction had melded and formed a super city of sorts. No one bothered counting them as anything other than one big entity. However, if you could separate Freo in any major way from the rest of the city, it was with industry. Stacks spewing smoke and flaring off gases with bursts of flame littered the skyline. The whole place looked like it was covered in a thin layer of grit and oil. The only exception to this was where the massive factories and warehouses met the water. Hulking liners and transport vessels filled the extended multi-layered dockyards in the bay. This was the centre of trade for this end of the state. If you wanted to get in or out of the southwest, this was your best bet for some black market transport. But a tourist like the touring child wouldn't have known where to start. They would have had to ask around. They would stand out. Someone will have seen something. It was just a case of asking the right person the right question. Maybe I seen something. Memory's a bit fuzzy, you know? I gave the dockhand a level stare. Want it to be more fuzzy? He sneered back. Clears up real quick with a bit of scratch, you know what I mean? I rolled my eyes. This guy had fuck all for us, just like the last few. We had spent the last hour asking about in the areas that the footage had shown our girl. I had made a point not to start throwing cash around. It set a bad precedent. I don't pay for blank discs, mate. I turned my back on him and started to walk away. He reached out and grabbed me by the jacket. No, wait, I got something for you. I regarded him over my shoulder. You tell me and I'll decide how much it's worth. He shifted, contemplating holding out for cash. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a stack of 50s. I peeled a few off and handed them to him. You get more, the more interesting you sound. He nodded and tucked them away, smiling a black-toothed smile. He was about as appealing to be close to as a meth goblin. It wasn't helped by the one old-school red optic eye and his missing ear. Yeah, yeah, you'll like this. He cleared his throat. Just the other day, I was watching the belt feed into lithium stacks into one of the liners, heading out to India, I think it was. This girl, she comes up to me. Well, I thought she was a girl, but she was heavily chromed up. You could tell. Her face looked as fake as an A-list celeb. She moved kind of weird, too. Weird how? Reva asked. He shrugged. You know, just weird. Too smooth. Like the way a cat walks. He scratched his head where his missing ear was. Predatory, that's the word. Anyway, she asks to slip onto the hold. I told her I don't load people. Cargo only. Not for free, anyway, I said cynically. He cracked a smile. Yeah, that's right. Fella's got to eat. Well, she got desperate. Started begging. You know what I mean? Begging? Reva asked. Her eyes narrowed. He frowned. Yeah, caught me off guard, that. She looked like she was proper scared of something. I was just starting to feel for her. Feel sorry for her. Was thinking about letting her on. Just then, my supervisor shows up and she legs it. Never saw her again. I peeled off a few more notes. He reached for them, and I twitched before he could grab them, pulling them back. Hey! I held up a finger. She was definitely trying to get onto a ship. He nodded vigorously. Yeah, 100%. Wanted offshore. Any idea where she went? He just shook his head. I mulled that over and handed him the notes. He made them vanish as fast as light and went back to his job. I turned to Reva. I could tell she was thinking the same thing as me. She was trying to leave, not arrive. Yeah, which begs the question, how'd she get here in the first place? And why? Thank you very much for listening to Cyphers Edge. If you enjoy this podcast, a subscription to the channel will be most appreciated. If you'd like more content from me, you can find me on various social media platforms. I also have a Discord. It's a small community, but we'd love to see you there to talk about the genre and any other topics that relate to the podcast, literature, or sci-fi and cyberpunk. As always, the script and narration were done by JJ Brandis, myself, and the music was done by Cale McLeish. Copyright Cyphers Edge 2026.